Oh man, if I had a nickel for every minute that I spent waiting for the sample company, I'd retire. I'd retire. But then I wouldn't be around to help you guys, so probably it's doing it on purpose so that I stay here. Hey everybody, it looks like we are live. Woohoo! And let's see, make sure that I am all set up. And welcome. I am Margie Remmers-Davis, creator of the Fast and Easy Way to QuickBooks Online Pro Advisor certification, and I am delighted to have you on today's live stream. We have a bunch of things that we are juggling. So Joel had to go take care of an urgent matter, and so he's going to be a little bit late. So I am going to kind of struggle and hopefully get the links out to you as we talk about them. And also, my mother's in the hospital, so I am waiting by the phone for a phone call, so I may have to rush out. So anyway, all sorts of things happening. But anyway, I'm delighted you're here. If you are here live, that means that you are a member of our QBO Gym Locker Room. If you are watching this recording, then let me tell you a little bit about what the locker room is. So let me, scroll down here and... Oh, something just happened to my studio door. I don't know what that was about. All right, let me show you my screen. All right, here we are. And so this is the QBO Gym Locker Room. So it is our free Facebook group where you have access to nearly 100 free exercises. I am bound and determined to get that over. I want to be able to say over 100 free hands-on exercises to get practice using QuickBooks Online. Also, you get to participate in our weekly live streams, and you get to vote on what you would like to cover, what you'd like me to do. So inside this Facebook group, here in the featured posts is this little welcome to the locker room. And when you are right here, you can click this link and you get access to this spreadsheet. Let's see where it is. And looks like Joel is back. Yay! Hello, Mike and Lindsay. So Joel, are you good to go here? I don't need to handle all of the links. You got it? All right, hopefully the answer is yes, because he just posted that. So I think that means that we're good to go. All right, so let's see. Here's the link to the gossip room. What? Okay, so anyway, so when you are a member of the locker room, you have access to this spreadsheet. So in the spreadsheet are tons of exercises. This first set of exercises on the Getting Started tab is for brand new. If you don't know anything about QuickBooks Online, that's where you start. The basic tab is all exercises that come from our basic level certification course. We also have all the exercises from our advanced level certification course. I am slowly but surely re-recording all of them, so you have a YouTube link to follow along while you're doing the exercises. That's what these are highlighted in yellow. We also have the QBO Gym. I'll talk about that in a minute. The Pro Advisor challenges are the exercises that come from inside your QBOA account. These are the ones that are written by Intuit, but we don't really like the format the way that they're written, so we are taking them again slowly but surely, getting through all of them, putting them into our signature, easy to follow along format. And then we have exercises on this tab that are retired exercises. These are exercises we created for previous versions of the tests, but you're no longer being tested on that, on that topic. But hey, it's still a good thing to know. And then also those are kind of those retired ones are on the at the bottom. And then also here's my list of the things that I need to do. All of these things, you know, that say Margie create, Margie create, Margie create. So anyway, so the thing that you do not see here on the list is you do not see payroll exercises, even though we have a payroll certification course, and we do have included in that payroll certification course, we have payroll exercises. And I'm going to take us off of there here so I can just talk to you face to face just for a minute. So let me tell you about the reason why I don't typically publish the payroll exercises. And here's why, is because the payroll sample company is a hidden gem. It is so hard to find. When I was studying payroll, by the way, myself for the first time, I was like, is there a sample company where I can play around? I can actually run payroll. And of course, when I was creating the course, I went through the same, how can I have people practice this? I asked the creator of the payroll certification course, I have her name at Intuit. I reached out to her and said, is there a payroll sample company? And she said, no, unfortunately, there isn't. I reached out to one of the trainers at the boot camp, and they said, no, there's no such thing. We don't have a payroll sample company. And I finally, I beat down enough doors that finally got to the person who said, why, yes, there is a payroll sample company, and here's how you get to it. So I worked really, really hard to find that payroll sample company, and that's why I hate to share it for free. I worked so hard for this. But today I'm going to share it with you. And this is the only time, I think this is the only time I'm going to do it. So, if you are one of the lucky ones that are here on today, here's how you get to the payroll sample company. Okay. Here, I'm going to share my desktop again. Go back. Okay. And, okay. So here I am in the sample company. And you want to go to payroll, select the employees tab, okay? And then right here where it says get started, when I was doing this myself, I didn't want to click this button because, it looks really official, right? It says questions, call, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, I don't want to get in trouble. I don't want to set up something that I'm not supposed to. But this is actually how you get to the payroll sample. Oh my gosh, guys, I cannot believe I'm telling you this. But there's a reason why I'm telling you this. So anyway, so we're going to go, so you click get started, and then it acts like it's not doing anything. It just sits here for a really long time. And if you look closely, I don't know how to zoom in while we're live here, but if you look closely up at the top in the link here, it actually says HARM, HARM menu. So it kind of feels like it's not doing anything and maybe you've actually clicked something wrong. But if you wait long enough, and maybe you're talking to an audience of live stream viewers, if you wait long enough, you see how it's kind of thinking along. Looks like on your side it's kind of frozen there, but it's now thinking, and now up at the top the URL has changed. And it is, what it's doing during this time is it is setting up the payroll sample company. And I promise, I don't know if I'm going to get it up on the live stream because I always have a tendency of running out of memory and stuff like that. But I promise you it will come up with the payroll sample company. This is the QBO payroll sample company. It will eventually come up. And this is how my students in the payroll certification course do their exercises. So why am I bringing this up? Two reasons. I'm going to turn this off so you don't have to just stare at that screen. And I will, if it comes back, oh, it just did while I was switching. Okay, so here we go. So now you can see it has loaded payroll, and it's slowly but surely like filling everything in. Okay, I'm going to come back when it's full, when it's done. But first I want to talk to you about why we're doing this today. Why am I talking about the payroll sample company today? 2 reasons. So, first of all, let's talk about the QBO gym, which I mentioned previously. So the QBO gym is a set of practice exercises that are designed to simulate life as a bookkeeper. So when you sign up for the QBO gym, and let me share my screen here, this other screen. When you sign up for the QBO gym, every month you get a series of exercises that are grouped into these 4 sections. And it is, you actually step into being a bookkeeper for Craig's Landscaping. And we've got a little video that's, for each one. And then you have all these exercises that you have to do for Craig's business that month. The warm-ups are, all things that you do like right when you first sit down. They're all like the processing of the money in and the money, what expenses, money out. Then the cardio is all things that Craig has asked you to do, like he's asked you to send out invoices or he's asked you to pay bills. And then the strength training is a topic where we take a deep dive into a feature of QBO or something that you have to learn in QBO. And you do this all hands-on as if you are working for Craig. And this month in the May issue, the strength training is all about journal entries and different circumstances when you use journal entries. And one of those circumstances is doing external payroll. So this is if you have a third-party payroll that is not connected to QBO, then you have to manually enter the payroll. And so this is what we are going to talk about today, is we're going to walk through this payroll journal entry exercise. If you are a member of the gym, then you'll find it right here in the May issue. And if you are live on this call, Joel is going to paste it right here in the chat so you have access to it without being a member of the gym. The only way you can get those free gym exercises is to be live here on the chat. If you are watching the recording and you want a copy, you can always sign up for a free trial of the gym, and we'll include that in the link below as well. So today we're going to go through the payroll journal entry, but before I did that, I wanted to go back and just talk about payroll in general. And it just so happens, this is purely a mistake, guys. So here's what loaded up as payroll. So this is actually the payroll sample company. So let me just hop up over for a second. Okay, so here's what happened. This happened a few weeks ago, and I was telling you guys, like, I know that when when you're watching other people's marketing, you think that, oh yeah, they're just doing this as a gimmick or whatever. Like you get all those, I don't know about you, but like I get all these emails say, oops, we made a mistake, or like, oops, we overbought and now you get to save, that kind of thing. So we made a mistake, and I'm just noticing that there's all these chats here. So we made a mistake and we accidentally ran 2 separate promotions. So if you are on our mailing list, then you got a link for 50% off our payroll course. That's just for people that are on our mailing list. Or if you're in the chat today, Joel's going to put that in. If you're on live today, Joel's going to put that in the chat. So that's payroll at 50% off. But the ads that we're running, so if you are like on Facebook and you see my face everywhere, and we always do a monthly special, that ad is for 50% off advanced. So we accidentally are running two promotions. This is going to kill us, but we're accidentally running two promotions, one for payroll and one for advanced, both 50% off. And that's ridiculous. Like from a business perspective, we should not do that, but you can benefit from our mistake. And it genuinely happened, guys. It's not a marketing gimmick. Like this actually happened to us. Okay. So let me go through the chat here before we get started real quick. Let's see. Hi, hello, howdy, da da da. Good morning. Someone said, excited to work on the payroll cert thanks to your program. Yay. Don't forget that in order for me to see who you are, then you need to grant eCam. So we use eCam for streaming, but you have to give them permission on Facebook. So don't forget that. Brock asked, is it from the advanced sample company? Thank you for Lindsay. He's talking about loading the payroll sample company. Lindsay, thank you for answering. You can access it from the QBO Plus sample company. So I believe it's in either place. So you can do both of them. But the one I have up here is from my regular sample company inside my QBOA account. So Brock, hopefully that answered your QBO Jim. Joel says it's like a flight simulator, but for bookkeepers. That is true. Okay, regular sample company. Yep. Okay. All right. So let's go back just so you can see the payroll. Okay. All right. So this is the payroll sample company, and we've got a number of payroll. We've got a number of employees in here, and so you can go in. You can add employees. And why didn't that open? There we go. All right, so you can see when you open an employee, you've got all the different settings, how much he's paid, what pay types he qualifies for, what his tax things are, what his deductions and contributions are. You can set all of that up. You can actually run payroll and see how to actually run payroll. So right here, see that it says run payroll, so you can actually click that and do it. Now, the reason I bring this up is even if you are never going to be in charge of payroll, which I wouldn't blame you if you weren't. Like if you decided that, you know what, I'm just going to do the bookkeeping stuff and I'm going to draw the line and say I don't do payroll, that would be fine. Like a lot of bookkeepers do that. Payroll is very, very, very complicated, and payroll specialists do not get paid enough for as complicated and as serious as it is, because if you do it wrong, there's all sorts of laws and regulations, penalties. It's not a pretty picture. Even if you are not planning on offering payroll as a service, as a bookkeeper, there are two reasons why it's a good idea to go through the payroll certification course, whether it's through us or whether it's just the free stuff on Intuit. The first reason is just so that you can understand what's happening in the books. Okay, so you're going to see in just a minute, there's all of these accounts, and when you look at them at first glance, it might not make sense what's happening. And as a bookkeeper, you need to understand what's happening. So that I said two reasons. There's actually three reasons. Okay. So one is you need to understand, what's happening so that you can interpret it and be able to advise your clients on, the reports, even if you're not the one that's physically actually running it. The second reason is eventually your business is going to grow to a point where you have to be on payroll. When you're first starting out your business and, maybe you're just an LLC, Schedule C, all the money that comes into the business is your money. And so it's just considered, when you do your taxes, like it just flows through. It's just your money. But eventually, your business will grow to a point where all of that money coming in, you would have to pay way too many taxes if it was all considered your money. And so instead, you file as a corporation, and then you have to you just take a paycheck, and you're only paying on that paycheck that you receive. How do I know this? Because it happened to me. So now my business has grown to a point where I get a paycheck. It's not just an owner's draw. It's not just all my money. I actually get a paycheck. And it's important for me to understand what's happening. I'm not running the payroll myself, but it's important for me, for my own business, to know what's happening and to be able to have a conversation about it. So, and then the third reason why you should consider getting the certification is because it will bump up your results in the Pro Advisor search. Even if you're not doing payroll, just having that badge you'll show up higher, and you'll be able to have more conversations with potential clients. So that's my pitch on why it's important to understand payroll, even if you're not planning on offering it. And, if you don't want to get our course, if you don't want to get certified, that's fine. But I highly recommend that you dig into the training and at least get your head wrapped around it. All right. So let's talk about the exercise that we are working on today. Okay. So let me hop back to nope, not that one, this one. Okay, so this is the payroll journal, or this is the payroll sample company that you can play around with on your own if you want to. If you get our course, then we have actual exercises, but those exercises, we don't do them for free because, as I mentioned, I can't believe this is so secret. I cannot believe I told it to you today. All right, I'm closing it. No, I'm not closing it because I need this sample company. But this is how you do it, okay? All right, what we are going to do is we are going to walk through the payroll journal entry that is inside the QBO gym, okay? So the QBO gym, like I said, each issue is divided into these 4 sections. The one we're talking about today is in the strength training for May 2023. The strength training this month is all about journal entries. And this first one that we're going to talk about is the payroll journal entry. So when you're inside the gym, you watch this little video, and then we have a little quiz that just checks your knowledge about the video. There's nothing serious about this quiz. This is just for you to check yourself on, how well you already know it. And once you submit the answers, it'll tell you, unlike QBO, when you're actually in the Intuit training and those little knowledge checks, if you have to get them right or you can't go on. That's not the case with us. So if you get it wrong, if you get it right, it doesn't matter. We're still going to tell you the correct answer and why that's the correct answer, so you can actually learn from it rather than just guessing. Okay? All right. So this is the one we're doing right here. For this exercise, you will need the payroll summary from Craig. Click the button under the animated video above to download it. All right, so here is our sample payroll summary. Now, if you are working with a third-party payroll processor, something like ADP, they are just going to give you the summary, and then what you're going to do is you're going to take this summary and you're going to enter it into QuickBooks Online manually. It's not a big deal. Let's see. Okay, somebody said I'm paused, but now I'm back. Okay. Anyway, oh, how can I make this bigger for you to see? Let's see. There we go. Now you can see it. All right, so if you're working with a third party, so not QuickBooks Online Payroll, if you're doing QuickBooks Online Payroll, it's going to be automatically integrated, and that's what you can play around with in the sample company that I showed you before, okay? If you are using something like Gusto, which is a super popular payroll processing system, that's going to integrate right into QuickBooks Online also. So you're not going to have to do this. What I'm talking about are the times when the payroll processor does not automatically link to QuickBooks Online. And if they don't, it's not a huge deal because you can just go in and enter. They'll always give you this payroll summary and you will go in and enter it, okay? So let's take a look at this payroll summary. Okay, for a second. So the payroll summary for pay period ending, and of course, when we're in the sample company, it's impossible for us to do dates correctly. So because the dates are always shifting in the sample company. So we have the month X'd out, and we're just saying it's the 7th of the month. Okay. And we have 2 employees. We'll get into the scenario here in just a minute. And this is going to be all of the totals of all of the things that we're going to need. So here are our 2 employees, Emily Platt. Can you see? Oh yeah, Emily Platt and John Johnson. Okay, so let's go back to our exercise. Oops, not that. Here we go. Okay, for this exercise, you'll need the payroll summary from Craig. That's what I just did. Click the button under the animated video above to download it. Then click here to practice recording payroll. So I just realized that if you are live on this call and you don't have the gym, then that means you don't have that payroll summary. So if somebody who is following along live could post that in the chat for anybody who needs it. I can't do it personally, and I don't think Joel can do it. So if you're following along and you have access to the gym, if you could post it in the chat for anyone who doesn't, that would be great. Of course, if you're watching the recording, then we'll have to remember to include that. Okay. No, if you're watching the recording, we're going to give you the link to the free trial, and then you'll have everything you need. All right, so let's go back to our exercise. Okay, so we're going to click here to practice recording payroll, and we'll read through our scenario. Okay, so we're starting in the sample company. Again, don't get confused about this is not the payroll sample company. I just showed you that as an extra thing. What we're doing now, we're now just using the regular sample company, and we're going to use a journal entry to record this information. So don't get confused about that, okay? All right. Business is growing fast, so Craig has hired a part-time office manager, Emily Platt, and a laborer, John Johnson, to help him keep up. He has decided to go with an outside payroll company to take care of everything. They don't integrate with QBO, so they will just be sending over a report before each payroll, which you'll need to manually enter in the books. You'll do this with a journal entry. Then, when the payroll checks are cashed and taxes are paid, the bank feeds will match to QBO. Okay, so click the link under the animated video in this section to download a report. That's what we already did. Okay. All right, so they don't integrate. I mean, sometimes you have to pay, $50, $70, $100 a month. Thank you, Lindsay, for posting that PDF. Actually, that link, I don't think people who don't have the gym can use that link because I think that's going to be behind the paywall. I was hoping you could download it and then upload it to the chat. I don't know how we can do it in the chat, but anyway, if you don't have the payroll summary, then you can just follow along and do the numbers. It'll be fine. But thank you, Lindsay. All right. So what I was saying was, if you have an outside payroll processor, maybe they will integrate with QBO, but they'll charge you extra for it. They'll charge you, $50, $70, $80 a month for the integration. And it's just, you'll see, it's just going to take us less than 5 minutes to do. So it might be that the business owner wants to save money and not pay for the integrator thing. All right, so let's talk about what we have to do. Before we get started, you'll need to create the accounts that Craig will be using to track his payroll expenses and obligations. What do I mean by obligations? That is what you're going to pay to an outside agency for having employees. We'll talk about that more in just a sec. Okay, so first we're going to click Accountant Tools, then select the Chart of Accounts. And I'm going to close this. I'm going to close this. I'm going to close this because I tend to have too many windows open and then we end up freezing during our live stream. Okay. So what was I doing? All right, Accountant Tools and Chart of Accounts. Accountant Tools, Chart of Accounts. Okay, we'll go back to our exercise. Step 2. The first account you'll need to create is the expense account that will keep track of how much Craig's employees earned. That's their wages. Okay, so I want you to think about this. You've all had jobs, right? When you get a job, let's say you're paid $10 an hour. But you know that you're not going to get actually all $10 of that, right? So some of the money is going to go to taxes, right? And there's other things. This is why you need the payroll course, is because there's so much more that it goes to. But you know that you're not going to get that whole $10. Well, what you may not know is that the employer, in addition to having to pay you the $10, the employer has to pay that $10 to you, but also more just for the privilege of having an employee. So we'll talk about those, but that's what we're doing, is we're setting up the account to track all of those things, okay, or both of those things in this case. Okay, so we are going to go to Chart of Accounts. Apparently in this, so normally you would click See Your Chart of Accounts. There's kind of like this extra step if it's the first time you've been in the Chart of Accounts since when you opened this version of the sample company. Apparently I've already been in it, so I don't need to do those things. Okay. All right. So what we're going to do is we're creating these accounts that are going to track our payroll activity. So we're going to click New, not the arrow next to it. Okay, so not New, not the arrow next to it, but New. Notice they changed, this is now a square button, where in my picture, look, it's a round button. I don't know why they do that. All right, but anyway, this is the button. We're clicking New. Okay. So step 4, in the Account Type section, select Expenses. In the Save Account Under section, select Expenses. Let's just do that much. I don't want to get too ahead of myself, okay? So what kind of account is it? It's an expense account, okay? And right here, come on, sample company, okay. So what are we saving it under? We're saving it under Expenses. Okay, and then in the Tax Form section, select Payroll Expenses. Okay. Oops. Okay. Payroll expenses. Now, somebody asked me why we aren't using payroll wage expenses, since this is what we're setting up, and you could use either, but in the example we just wrote it as payroll expenses. Okay, in the account name section, we're going to enter wages expense. Okay, so this is the $10 an hour that I'm paying to Emily and John. They're not making $10 an hour, but you know what I mean, right? Okay, so the account name is Wages expense. Oops. You can always bet on me typing things wrong when I'm on a live stream. Okay. All right. So there we go. And we're just going to leave the description blank and we're going to click save. Okay, so that's our first account. This is the account that's going to track how much we're actually paying each employee. Now let's see, what do we need next? Okay, steps 5 and 6. Next, you will need to create the expense account that tracks how much the employees cost Craig. Okay, so it's not just that $10 an hour, but now Craig has to pay things over and above that just for the privilege of having an employee. Here's a list. These are things over and above what the employee were actually paid, and includes the employer portion of Social Security and Medicare, federal unemployment tax, and any taxes required by the state his employees work in. So guess what? If you have employees, it actually costs you money, not just what you have to pay them, but the privilege of having them. You have to also pay the government. Again, you learn all of that in the payroll certification course, okay? Oh, and that's what I wrote here. For more information about payroll taxes and requirements, please see the Intuit Payroll Certification training under the Pro Advisor tab inside your QBOA account, and or the Fast and Easy QBO Payroll Certification course found here. Okay, so there's a link right here, but this link doesn't have the 50% off code in it. So, so if you're wanting to get that, then use the link that Joel put in the chat. Okay. All right, so we're going to click new, and then we're going to create another account. Okay, so these are the expenses, not just the wages, but the ones that are over and above that. Okay, so we're going to call it what? Expenses, payroll tax expenses. All right, expenses, just like before. Expenses, payroll tax expenses, and then, the account name, what did we call it? Payroll tax expense. Lindsay, thank you for trying. I'm not sure that I acknowledged you before, but thank you. All right, now we're going to click save. Okay, so now we have the two. Let's thinking about it. Okay. All right. So step 7 and 8. All right. Next, you will need to create the liability account that will track how much you owe the employees. I had such a hard time wrapping my head around liability accounts when I first started. So a liability account is basically, it's an account where you owe somebody, okay? So, I mean, it's not the same, as like a credit card, which is like a liability, it's a liability account, but it's also like a bank account, right? So a liability account is just a holding place that says we are holding on to this money that we're eventually going to pay out to somebody else. That's what a liability account is. So the liability account is what's going to hold the money that we owe to other people until we pay it out to those people. And when we pay it out to those people, in this case, we're going to pay it to the employee, part of it, and then we're going to pay part of it to the government. So while we're holding on to it, it's going to hang, it's sitting in this holding area. Okay, so we're setting this up. Next, you'll create the liability account that will track how much you owe the employees. This will be their wages minus the taxes we are deducting from their paychecks and submitting on their behalf. Okay, so we pay them $10 an hour, like that's how much they earn, $10 an hour, but that's not how much they get in their paycheck. So it's going to be, let's say $3 of it is going to go off to taxes and $7 of it is going to go to them. So this liability account is going to say it's going to hold on to that $7 until we actually pay it. Okay. So this will be their wages minus the taxes we are deducting from their paychecks and submitting on their behalf. This includes federal and state withholding, their portion of Social Security and Medicare, and any required garnishments. And of course, it gets way more complicated than that once you start adding in things like benefits. So again, take the payroll course, because it'll hopefully it'll make it much more clear. Okay. All right. So we're clicking new, and this, instead of an expense account, it's going to be a liabilities account. Okay. So we have new. Hopefully you guys are seeing in the chat that Lindsay's trying really hard to get you a copy of that payroll summary. So, okay. And this time it's a liabilities account. And we're selecting other current liabilities. Current means that it is going to be paid, how it's a holding account. So a current liability means that it's going to be paid out of that liability account in under 12 months. Okay. So which these are, they're going to be, within weeks of each other, or days or hours, maybe it could be. All right. So it's liabilities, then other current liabilities. Other current liabilities. And what did we say? Payroll clearing. There it is, payroll clearing. A clearing account is just a temporary place. I have a whole thing, description and exercise and all of that, all about clearing accounts. Somebody in the gym maybe can remind us where that is exactly. I don't know off the top of my head, but I do go into detail somewhere about what clearing means. Okay, then we're going to call it wages. Come on, sample company. Wages payable. All right. Click save. Okay. All right. And then the fourth account that we're going to create is also a liability account. This liability account is what we are paying outside agencies. So that previous one we just created, that was what we're paying out to employees. Now we're going to have a liability account for what we owe the outside agencies. Now, we're setting it up here so it's just one account that all of the different agencies come out of. You could actually have it set up for each individual agency. That would be more work, but maybe it would be more correct. It's just a matter of, working with the accountant and seeing what was previously set up. Okay, so, all right, so now we're doing payroll tax payable. Okay, so now we've got new. Liability. Other current liability. See, I talk and then I forget. Okay, other current liability, payroll tax payable, payroll tax payable. Payroll tax payable. Okay. All right, let me just check the chat. All right. Okay, so now we have our account set up. We can actually create the journal entry. So let's go to our next part. So you're now ready to create the journal entries. Journal entries are used when there is no available transaction in QBO, that is, nothing under the plus new button, that works for what you're trying to record. For payroll, you need to record a transaction that will, 1, show on the profit and loss report the amounts that have been paid, and 2, show on the balance sheet the amounts that are still owed. The reason we use a journal entry for this rather than an expense is so that it will match the bank feed. After all, what you really paid the employees, their net pay, is not what you paid them in full, their gross pay. And what you paid in taxes is not what you actually owe, because it includes items that were paid on the employee's behalf. I want to make sure that you get that. That is the piece that has to stick in your brain. That's the piece that has to stick in your brain right there, is that what you really paid the employees is not what you paid them in full, okay? And what you paid in taxes is not what you actually owe, because you're forwarding money on behalf of the employees. You're taking what the employees owe and you are sending it off to the government for them. Isn't that nice of you? It's nice of you, but it requires this extra step on your part. You have to be able to categorize it correctly, okay? So creating a journal entry will record all of this properly, okay? So we are going to click plus new and select journal entry. Okay, plus new, select journal entry. One of the common questions that I get is, or common misunderstanding is that, yes, your clients can create journal entries. It's not something only for accountants. Accountants can only create adjusting journal entries, but honestly, I don't really understand the difference. I understand the difference, but I don't understand the difference in the software, how it's treated differently. Okay, so that's loading up. We're going to create a journal entry. All right, the date of the journal entry should match the date that the payroll was run. Remember what our payroll summary said, okay? Remember our payroll summary? The 7th of the month, okay? Oops, where'd it go? Note that the payroll summary shows that it is the 7th of this month. So in the journal date field, we're going to enter the 7th of the current month. Well, that's going to be our future. Let's see what happens when we do that. Hopefully it doesn't mess us up. And why did my journal entry not load, guys? Oh, man. My sample company is frozen. Oh, it's thinking. Oh, man. If I had a nickel for every minute that I spent waiting for the sample company, I'd retire. But then I wouldn't be around to help you guys, so probably it's doing it on purpose so that I stay here. Somebody asked about recertification. We are working on the recertification course material, and that is going to be available no later than May 15th. The recertification is for people who certified before November 1st of last year. They have to recertify in the spring, and there are 2 sections. If you only have your basic level certification, then you only take 1 section test. It has 16 questions on it. And then if you're advanced level certified, then there are 2 sections. So you'll take that same basic level test, and then you'll take an additional advanced test, which I haven't worked on advanced yet, so I can't remember how many questions there are. There's, I don't know, around the same, 14, 15, maybe 13 questions. I don't know. Look, it's a journal entry. Yay! Okay. All right. I was beginning to worry there. Okay. Let's go back to our exercise. So we are entering in the date field the 7th of the current month. So we're just going to click here. Mine is still thinking. So I can't even click on it. What the heck? Oh, and I have a little thing here that says waiting for, oh, you can't see it because my head's in the way. It says waiting for the, for Intuit. Oh, la-di-da. Oh, I can type in it, but can I do anything? Let's see. 7. Oh, good. All right. At least I got onto that step. Let's move on to the next one. All right. Step 3. It is good practice to name the journal entry so that you can find it easily later, okay? In the journal number field, enter year, month, 07 payroll, okay? So this is now May. When I took this picture, it was in April. This is now May, so we're going to say 2023-05-07 payroll. It's still thinking. Oh, I guess I can type. Okay, 2023 05 07 payroll. All right. Yay, it looks like I'm actually working on that journal entry. This is exciting. Okay. Let's see. Mike says retirement is boring. Somebody else says, no, you're amazing and we need your expertise. Retirement is for the birds. Oh, thank you guys. All right. You've patted my back. You've lifted up my self-esteem. Okay. So recording payroll, going down to step 4. Okay. First, we will record what we paid out in total in wages, okay? So on line 1 in the account field, select wages expense, and in the debit field, enter $576.92. Why is it $576.92? Let's go back to our payroll summary, okay? Right here, this is the gross pay. This is the total gross pay. That's how much our employees actually earned, okay? So let me go back here, wages expense. Wages expense. And see, I'm talking so much, I forgot the number already. $576.92. $576.92. Okay. All right, so you might be asking, why are we using the debit column? I have a little explanation. Note that we're using the debit column here because we are adding to an expense account. For a more thorough explanation of debits and credits, we recommend this video as well as these practice questions. So this is a video by a guy, Accounting Stuff. He has great videos that just really do a good job of breaking down certain concepts in accounting. It's called Accounting Stuff. I love him. And so this is a video by him that talks more about debits and credits. And then he also has a video that like helps in your brain, you know, get it serious. So that's what these links are. And then we also talk more about debits and credits in our advanced level certification course, which is here. Okay, so I'm not going to go into more detail than that. So going back to our exercise, boy, I'm just clicking around. Okay, step 5. Next, we will record Craig's employer taxes. Remember, this does not include the taxes that we are transmitting to the taxing agency on the employee's behalf. These are only the taxes that Craig pays as for the privilege of being an employer, okay? All right, so it's going to be payroll tax expense, payroll tax expense. Okay, notice it thinks because in a journal entry, the debits and credits always have to be equal. And so it pops in this number here thinking this is going to be the credit for this, but it's not. What we're doing instead is we're entering $65.20. Here, let's look at the payroll summary. Where did $65.20 come from? Right here, okay? So here is the IRS withholding, okay? So here's the amount that the employees paid. This isn't actually accurate because it's not withholding. It's we shouldn't have typed it. We shouldn't have said it was withholding. It's withholding. What's a better term for that? It's basically the federal tax. It's the federal taxes. So the federal taxes for the employees are going to include. It's going. Excuse me. It's going to include withholding, but it's also that Medicare and Social Security. So this is the portion for us that's Medicare and Social Security. This is federal unemployment. This is called FUTA. Again, this is something you learn about in that payroll course, because this is something that only the employer pays. Employers put money into the pot for people who get laid off. Okay, so in our case, it's that. And then here's the state, the equivalent of the Medicare and Social Security, or the state, whatever we're doing for the employees. That's what that number is. Okay, so the total that's for us above and beyond is this 6520. So that's why we are putting 6520 right here. And notice that when I start typing it, 6520, and I just tab, it deletes that extra one. Okay. All right. So next, what are we going to do? Okay, step 6. Next, we will record what we will be paying total in taxes. This includes Craig's portion as well as what he is paying on behalf of his employees. Okay, so it's that 6520 plus whatever he's taking from and submitting on behalf of his employees. Okay. On line 3 in the account field, select payroll tax payable. Okay. Payroll. This is that again, can't type on a live stream. Okay. My gosh. Still can't type. Where's the L? Right there. Okay. Payroll tax payable. This is our liability. We're adding to a liability. That's why it's going to go in the credit. But it's not this total amount. It's just the amount, this payroll tax expense, plus whatever we're transmitting on behalf of the employees. So that is $161.80. Let's see if we can find it on the payroll summary. Okay, right here. Total tax liability, right here. Okay, so that's the employee portion, which we're doing as a favor, and then the employer portion, that total equals that number right there. Okay, so 161.80. Oops, not the description. 161.80. Okay. All right, so what's left? What's left? Well, it's the amount that we actually are writing the check to the employee for. Okay, so this is going to be our, what do we call this account? All right, going to step 7, wages payable. Okay, wages payable. You could call it anything you want. I like to use the term wages because that's what the IRS form says, wages. But you could call it, employee pay or, something like that. Okay. All right. And then notice, so that's what we are actually paying to the employees. So that's their gross minus what we're taking out on their behalf. And QBO automatically did the calculation for us. Okay. So here's the amount. And I'm going to click out of the, okay, sorry. I got confused with a different thing. All right. So here is 4830. This is what QBO automatically calculated. If we look at our payroll summary, total net pay, this is what our employees earned right here, 480.32. Okay, and if you look at their net pay, this is what we're going to write their checks for. You can see that that totals 48.32. Okay, so that's our journal entry. Okay, so I'm going to click Save and Close for the journal entry. Okay, save and close. All right, it's 12 o'clock, but There's still 2 more things that we have to go over before we can wrap this up, okay? The first thing is we actually have to pay the employees. Now, typically, the outside payroll service would actually cut the checks and would either write the checks on Craig's behalf and then mail them to the employees, or send them to your office for distribution, or they'll just direct deposit. I mean, who gets a check anymore? Most people get it directly deposited. So usually the payroll company would automatically do that for you. In our scenario here, we're going to assume that Craig's business is so small that he is actually writing the checks himself. So let's just see how he would do that, okay? This is what I just said, but I'll read it again. In our scenario, Craig has hired the payroll company to do all of the payroll calculations for him, and then he is responsible for writing the checks and paying the taxes. While this could be a service the payroll company provides, in a real-life scenario, it's more likely that they will take care of actually paying the employees as well, either by direct deposit or by a check they are authorized to cut from Craig's account. You would then create an expense to match the net amount of each paycheck, okay? So you do have to do each paycheck, because think about it. The employee is going to cash that check, and then the amount of that check, that net check, that's what you're going to see in the bank feed when they cash that check. And so that net amount has to match to the expense in QBO, okay? All right, so for the purposes, so that's why, if you have a ton of employees, you want to just have the outside service do it. Like, you actually don't want to do it. But in this case, Craig's business is so small, we'll assume that Craig is writing the checks himself. Okay, so step 1, click plus new and select check. Plus new, select check. Don't forget that checks here are money out. Sometimes people get confused about between checks that come in and checks that we write out. So this is a check that's going out. That's why it's in the vendors column. Okay. Complete the check transaction as follows. In the payee field, select Emily Platt. Let's do that first. Okay, Emily. Emily Platt. Okay. Remember when we were looking at the sample payroll company that Emily and John Johnson were already listed there as employees. So that's why we're using them. Okay. In the payment date field, select the day that the check will be cut. According to our payroll summary, the pay period ended on the 7th, so we could enter the 8th here. Okay, so we could do this. We're actually going to do that because of the reports that we're going to show later. But this could all actually be the same day. I'm just doing it this way. The exercise is written this way so that you can see the reports, how it's different. Okay, in the category field, select wages payable. Wages. Come on, didn't I start typing? Wages payable. Okay. In the description, enter pay period ending, and then we're going to say the date that we're using. So I'm just going to say pay period ending (5/7/23). Do you like how I can just copy right from the exercise? Those of you who have been around for a while know that we weren't always able to do that. So this is like a new exciting thing for our exercises that we can copy and paste. All right, in the amount field, enter $200.32. How do I know that that's the correct amount? Let's look at the payroll summary. So here is Emily Platt, and it says $200.32 right here. Now, in an actual real life payroll summary like this, it would actually give all of the details of Emily's gross and her individual, for each of the employees, it will show these individual numbers up here. Just for the purpose of the exercise, we put them together. Okay, so so we are going to, I forgot already, $200.32 right here. Okay, and then we're going to click Save and New because we have to do John's paycheck. Now, to save time, what you could do if you were really doing this with a bunch of employees is you could create a recurring transaction. And so all you have to do is go in and put in the amount each time. So that would save you some time if you had more than these 2 employees. Okay, the payment date is still that for, because it's the same for Emily. Wages payable, and it's the same 5/7 pay period ending, and his, oops, I didn't go, I'm always getting ahead of myself. Okay, so we did it again, John Johnson, 8th, wages payable, pay period ending, and now it's going to be 280, and we're going to say save and close. 280, and this time we're going to hit save and close. So now we have written the checks for them. Did I skip the check number? Looks like I did. Anyway, so we'll just say that that was the check number that they were writing. Okay, all right, last piece. Let's check the reports. I'm sorry we're a little bit over today. I thought because we were only doing 1 exercise, we were actually going to end early, but oh well, here we are. So, all right, so let's see how this payroll activity has affected reports. Okay, first, let's look at the balance sheet. From the left navigation bar, click Reports, then select Balance Sheet. We're going to change the report period date to the date of the journal entry, which was the 7th, and then click Run Report. Okay, so let's look at the report. Okay, then select Balance Sheet. And we're going to change the date to the date of the journal entry, which was the 7th. And then we're going to run the report. Okay. Notice that the payroll tax payable and the wages payable are reflected under other current liabilities. Until Craig pays taxes and records the checks, these will still be owing. Okay, remember that's what a liability account is. This is the bucket that says how much you owe other people. So here, if I scroll down to the other current liabilities, okay, wages payable, this is how much. Remember, this is the date of the journal entry, the 7th. According to this report, we haven't written those checks yet, okay? And then here's the one that's for the taxes. So now let's do it. Let's show, let me go back to the exercise, okay? Part 2 is to change it to the 8th, okay? So now we're going to change this to the 8th because that's the day that we actually did the checks. And again, I only did that so you could see the difference here, okay? So now we've written the checks, and what happened to that account, here's our wages payable, now it's 0 because we wrote the checks to Emily and John, it took that amount out of the liability, okay? The payroll tax liability is still here because we haven't paid the taxes yet, okay? So that is the balance sheet. And then the last thing to look at is the profit and loss. Okay, so we're going to do the same thing. We're going to go back to report list, or I think the exercise actually says to click reports here. Either will take you to the same place. And then we're going to select profit and loss. Okay. The current year to date will be automatically selected, so this will include all of the work we have done so far. So let's see that. Okay, this year to date, we're going to have to change this because the dates were in the future, remember that? So let's change this to the 8th and run report. Okay. Okay, notice that the total payroll tax expense does not equal the total of our payroll tax liability. I've said this so many times. Hopefully it has sunk in, okay? What the payroll expense is what you pay over and above for the privilege of having an employee. The payroll tax liability is that plus what you're paying on behalf of the employees. It's the employees are paying it. You're not paying it, but you're sending the money on their behalf, okay? So if we look here and in our expenses, okay? Here's payroll tax expense. It's only the $65.20, okay? And then notice too that the total wages expense is the gross amount that the employees earned, not the net amount that the employees actually received, okay? So here, that's the total that we paid, that the employees earned. That's not what we actually paid them. What we actually paid them was $400 and something. Okay, so yeah, $480. Okay. Oh my gosh, guys, that's it. We're 12 minutes over. I thank you for sticking with me. Oh my goodness. All right, so that is it for all things payroll that we're going to talk about today. I don't know that I am ever going to go on any live stream more into detail on payroll than I did today. So thank you so much for being here. If you have any wrap-up questions, of course, I will stick around for a moment watching the chat. Somebody says thank you. Don't forget to give eCam permission so that we know who you are. Somebody else says thank you. Oh, you guys are awesome. So anyway, it doesn't look like I have any questions. So I guess I'm going to end. I'm going to click my little finish button. Mike, I haven't forgotten you, so I will send you an email just a moment. Thank you, Lindsay, for remembering my mother. I mentioned that at the beginning of the call, that she's in the hospital, and I was worried that I was going to have to run, cut things short and talk to somebody on the phone, but they haven't called yet. So yeah, still praying and crossing our fingers. So thank you. All right. I think that's it, guys. You guys have a wonderful weekend. I am actually flying out. My mother is in Oregon, so the next time you see me, I will be in Oregon. And it will be very early in the morning. Some of you guys are already on the West Coast, so you guys get early. All right, Ron has a question for later. You can go ahead and email support@fastandeasyqbo.com and we will get you squared away. All right, thanks everybody, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye. Have a great weekend.